Welcome to Ancient Relics Keeper, where buried mysteries, unsolved phenomena, and the darkest corners of history slowly unravel through chilling tales and forgotten truths waiting to be uncovered. In the shadows of history and across remote corners of the world, strange events defy explanation, whispering of forces beyond our grasp. From eerie footprints in snow to ghostly lights in silent valleys, these mysteries captivate and unsettle us. Are they glimpses of other dimensions, spirits, or cosmic visitors, or mere tricks of nature? Join us as we unravel 7 chilling phenomena, each a puzzle that challenges science and stirs the imagination. The Devil's Footprints, a chilling trail that haunts history. Picture a snowy night in 1855, a quiet English countryside blanketed in white, when villagers wake to find something bizarre. Strange tracks crisscrossing their world, as if the devil himself took a midnight stroll. The Devil's Footprints of East Devon is a mystery that still sends shivers down spines, defying logic and science with its eerie presence. On February 8, 1855, after a heavy snowfall, the people of East Devon, a rural region in southern England, stumbled upon a trail of hoof-like marks stretching over 100 miles. These weren't ordinary footprints. They snaked through fields, climbed over walls, danced across rooftops, and even crossed a river without breaking stride. The tracks, about 4 inches long and 3 inches wide, looked like they belonged to a cloven-hoofed creature, spaced evenly as if made by a single entity moving with purpose. What made it creepier? They appeared overnight, in a single night's snowfall, covering towns, villages, and remote areas from Exmouth to Dawlish, defying any human or animal explanation. Locals, steeped in the religious fervor of the time, whispered of Satan himself leaving his mark, a warning or a curse. Others thought it was a prank, a beast, or something far stranger. The mystery lies in the sheer impossibility of the trail. No known creature could cover that distance, navigate such obstacles, or leave such precise marks in one night. Imagine waking up to find these tracks on your barn roof or leading into a haystack only to vanish. It's the kind of thing that makes you question what's real. Let's dive into why this phenomenon remains one of the most baffling supernatural puzzles, exploring its haunting details, what people thought it meant, and how science has tried and failed to crack the case. The tracks' mystique comes from their precision and scale. Historical accounts, like those in the London Times and local papers, describe them as uniform, about 8 inches apart, as if whatever made them moved with unnatural consistency. They didn't wander like an animal's tracks might. They followed a deliberate path, ignoring barriers. They crossed a 2-mile-wide estuary, appeared on both sides of high walls, and even seemed to pass through narrow pipes, as if the maker could defy physical limits. Some villagers swore the snow around the tracks looked scorched, adding to the demonic lore. In 1855, England was a deeply religious place, and the idea of the devil walking among them wasn't just a ghost story, it was a real fear. Churches held prayers to ward off evil, and some refused to leave their homes at night. The track's sudden appearance, with no clear start or end, fueled tales of a supernatural visitor. Maybe it was a demon, they thought, or a restless spirit marking its territory. The lack of witnesses only deepened the unease. No one saw or heard anything unusual that night, which is odd for such a vast trail. It's like the thing just appeared, walked, and vanished into thin air. Now, let's think about what this could mean beyond the spooky stories. Could it have been a prank? Some locals suspected a group of mischief makers, but pulling off a 100-mile hoax overnight, across rooftops and rivers, in deep snow, seems nearly impossible. You'd need an army of people, perfect coordination, and no one spilling the secret, unlikely in small, tight-knit villages. Plus, no one found tools, ladders, or any signs of human tampering. Another idea is that it was an animal, but what kind? The tracks resembled a donkey's hooves, but donkeys don't climb walls or cover 100 miles in a night. Some suggested a kangaroo escaped from a zoo, but kangaroos hop, not walk, and their tracks don't match. The more you think about it, the weirder it gets. Maybe it wasn't a creature from our world at all. Let's explore a personal hypothesis. What if the tracks were left by something from another dimension? Imagine a being, not bound by our laws of physics, slipping into our reality for a night. It could move through walls, over water, and across roofs without leaving a trace beyond its footprints. Maybe it was an interdimensional traveler, a spirit, or even an alien entity testing our world. The scorched snow, some reported, could be a byproduct of its energy, like a glitch in reality. This idea sounds wild, but when you consider how the tracks defy normal explanation, it's no crazier than thinking a donkey did it. The religious angle also sparks another thought. What if it was a collective hallucination, born from the era's obsession with sin and the devil? Mass hysteria can make people see things that aren't there, but it's hard to believe entire towns imagined the same detailed tracks, measured and sketched by local scholars. The phenomenon's scale, covering dozens of villages, makes it feel too real to dismiss as a shared delusion. Now let's turn to science, which has tried to crack this case for over a century. One popular theory is that the tracks were a natural phenomenon, like wind-blown debris or melting snow creating patterns that looked like footprints. Snow can play tricks, after all. Think of how it drifts or forms odd shapes. But this theory falls apart when you consider the tracks' consistency and their path over obstacles like walls and rivers. Wind doesn't make hoof-shaped marks that march in a straight line for miles. Another scientific idea points to animals, like mice or hares, whose hopping tracks in snow might look like a continuous trail when melted or distorted. In 2009, a researcher named Mike Dash, who studied the case, suggested mice could have made the marks, their tiny prints merging in the snow. But mice don't climb rooftops or cross estuaries, and their tracks wouldn't look like cloven hooves. Plus, the sheer distance, 100 miles, would require millions of mice working in sync, which is absurd. A more intriguing scientific angle involves weather. Some experts propose a rare atmospheric event, like ball lightning or a microburst, could have left marks resembling tracks. Ball lightning, a glowing orb of energy, can scorch the ground, but it doesn't travel 100 miles or make hoof shapes. Others suggest freezing rain or a temperature shift could have altered animal tracks to look strange. But again, the precision and obstacles defy this. The estuary crossing is a real head-scratcher. How does anything leave tracks across a 2-mile stretch of water? Some say the tracks didn't actually cross but appeared on both sides, implying the creature jumped or teleported, which only deepens the mystery. Science's best guess often comes back to misidentification. People saw random marks, panicked, and turned them into a devil's trail. But this feels like a cop-out when you read the detailed reports from 1855, including sketches and measurements by educated locals, not just superstitious farmers. The phenomenon's cultural impact adds another layer. In 1855, newspapers across England covered the story, sparking debates between skeptics and believers. The Times called it a great marvel, while some clergy used it to preach about divine judgment. The story spread globally, and even today, it's a staple in books on unexplained mysteries. It's not just the tracks themselves, but how they gripped people's imaginations, turning a snowy night into a legend. Compare it to modern urban legends like Bigfoot or UFO sightings. Something about the unknown hooks us. Maybe it's because we want to believe there's more to the world than what we see. The devil's footprints also raise questions about how we interpret the unexplainable. In 1855, with no cameras or drones, people relied on their eyes and stories. If this happened today, we'd have videos, satellite images, and forensic teams swarming the area. Would that solve it, or would it just create new questions? Even with modern tech, Some mysteries like UFOs or ghostly apparitions resist clear answers. The track's lack of a starting or ending point is particularly haunting. They just appear in the snow and stop, like a ghost fading away. This fuels the supernatural vibe. Maybe whatever made them didn't need to start or end, because it wasn't bound by our rules. Let's circle back to the interdimensional idea. In physics, some theories suggest parallel universes or hidden dimensions exist, separated by a thin veil. What if something slipped through that veil for a night, leaving tracks as its only trace? The scorched snow could be a clue, like energy leaking from another reality. This isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. Quantum physics talks about particles popping in and out of existence. Why not a larger entity? The track's path, ignoring walls and water, fits the idea of something unbound by gravity or matter. On the flip side, science warns us not to jump to wild conclusions. Occam's razor says the simplest explanation is usually right, so maybe it was just weird snow patterns or a flock of animals misidentified in the chaos. But simple doesn't always cut it when the evidence is so bizarre. The track's uniformity, their vast distance, and their path over impossible terrain scream for a bolder answer. Another angle is psychological. Fear can distort reality. In 1855, with cholera outbreaks and social unrest, people were primed to see signs of doom. The devil was a convenient scapegoat, turning odd marks into a satanic invasion. Yet, this doesn't explain why the tracks were so consistent across dozens of witnesses, from farmers to vicars. If it was mass hysteria, it was the most organized hallucination ever. The mystery endures because it's a perfect storm of creepy details, cultural context, and scientific dead ends. No theory animal, weather, prank, or demon fully fits. The devil's footprints feel like a glitch in the world. A moment when something impossible happened and left just enough evidence to haunt us. Even today, walking through East Devon's quiet fields, you might glance at the snow and wonder, could it happen again? Maybe the answer isn't in finding a culprit, but in embracing the unknown. The tracks remind us that some things are too strange, too vast, to pin down, and that's what makes them unforgettable. The Green Children of Woolpit, a tale woven in wonder and doubt. While the devil's footprints left a chilling trail through snowy England, another mystery from centuries earlier stirs the heart with its strange beauty. The Green Children of Woolpit, a story that feels like a whisper from another world. In the 12th century, during the reign of King Stephen, the small village of Woolpit in Suffolk, England, became the stage for an enigma that still baffles us today. Two children, a boy and a girl, appeared as if from nowhere, their skin a startling green, their clothes made of an unfamiliar fabric, and their words in a tongue no one could understand. Found near a wolf-pita trap dug for wolves, they were taken in by villagers, who were both curious and wary. The children refused all food except raw green beans, which they ate eagerly, and their story, as the girl later shared, was stranger still. They came from a sunless land, a place of twilight called St. Martin's Land, reached through a cave or pit. This tale, recorded by medieval chroniclers like Ralph of Coggeshall and William of Newburgh, has haunted scholars, storytellers, and dreamers for centuries, blending the eerie with the poignant. The children's green skin, their alien language, and their claim of an otherworldly home spark questions about who or what they were. Were they lost souls from a hidden realm, visitors from a parallel world, or simply misunderstood children caught in a web of myth? Let's unravel this mystery, exploring its delicate details, the whispers of the supernatural, and the stubborn efforts of science to find answers, all while holding close the wonder of a story that feels like a half-remembered dream. The children's arrival was no small event in Woolpit, a farming village named for its wolf pits, where life revolved around crops and church. The boy and girl, perhaps 10 or 12 years old, were spotted near one of these pits, their green skin glowing faintly under the English sun. Their clothes, described as oddly cut and shimmering, didn't match the rough wool or linen of the villagers. They seemed bewildered, unable to speak English or any known dialect, their voices a soft, melodic babble. The villagers, likely a mix of superstitious and devout Christians, must have felt a chill of awe and fear. Were these fairies, demons, or angels in disguise? They brought the children to Sir Richard de Conn, a local knight, who offered them shelter. At first, the children wept and refused bread, meat, or fruit, their green faces pinched with hunger. Then, someone offered raw green beans, and they devoured them with a desperate joy, as if they'd never seen other food. Over weeks, the boy grew weak and died, his spirit fading like a shadow at dusk. But the girl, stronger or perhaps more resilient, began to eat other foods. Slowly, her green skin faded to a human hue, and she learned enough English to tell her tale. She said they were herding their father's cattle in St. Martin's Land, a place where the sun never rose, and all was bathed in a dim, eternal glow. They heard bells, followed the sound through a cave, and emerged into Woolpit's blinding daylight, unable to find their way back. This story, simple yet impossibly strange, is the heart of the mystery. The girl, later baptized as Agnes, lived among the villagers, married, and vanished into history, but her words linger like a song you can't forget. The green skin alone sets this tale apart. In a time before science could name every ailment, such a trait was a marvel, a sign of the divine or the demonic. The villagers, steeped in folklore about fairies and changelings, might have seen the children as creatures of the otherworld, a realm of spirits and magic just beyond the veil of reality. The girl's mention of a sunless land only deepened the enchantment. Was St. Martin's Land a metaphor for the underworld, a fairy realm, or something stranger? The Wolf Pit, a dark, earthy gash in the ground, feels like a doorway, a place where worlds might touch. The children's refusal of food, except for beans, adds another layer of oddity. In medieval Europe, beans were humble fare, but in folklore, they sometimes carried mystical weight, linked to the dead or the fairy world. The boy's death, so soon after arriving, casts a tragic shadow, as if he couldn't survive the weight of this new world. The girl's survival, her slow transformation into an ordinary woman, is both hopeful and haunting. She lose something vital when her greenness faded? The medieval chroniclers who recorded this tale were careful men, not prone to wild invention. Ralph of Coggeshall, a monk, and William of Newburgh, a historian, wrote with a mix of skepticism and wonder, noting the story's strangeness but not dismissing it. Their accounts, written decades after the event, suggest the tale was well known, passed down by villagers who believed it was true. This gives the story a rare credibility for its time, unlike many legends spun from pure fancy. But what could explain it? Let's weave a personal hypothesis, one that honors the story's magic while daring to dream beyond the ordinary. Suppose the children were travelers from a parallel dimension, a world running alongside our own, separated by a thin cosmic curtain. In modern physics, theories of multiverses suggest countless realities exist, each with its own rules. Perhaps St. Martin's Land was such a place, a twilight world where life evolved differently, tinting its people green with some mineral or light unique to their realm. The Wolf Pit might have been a rare rift, a tear in reality's fabric, letting them slip through. Their strange clothes and language, their shock at sunlight, fit this idea. Imagine stepping from a dim, cool world into the harsh glare of ours. The green skin could be a biological trait, like a plant's chlorophyll, adapted to their sunless home. Their fixation on beans might reflect a diet suited to their world's sparse resources. The boy's death could be a failure to adapt, his body overwhelmed by our air, food, or even emotions. The girl's survival suggests a stronger constitution or a willingness to let go of her past, though her fading greenness feels like a loss, as if she shed her true self to blend in. This hypothesis, while fantastical, captures the story's otherworldly glow, offering a bridge between the medieval mind and modern imagination. Yet, there's another possibility rooted in the era's folklore. The children might have been seen as fairies or changelings, being swapped for human children by mischievous spirits. In 12th century England, tales of fairies abounded, and green was their color, tied to nature and magic. The wolf pit, a liminal space between earth and darkness, was the kind of place fairies were said to emerge. The girl's story of bells could echo church bells, often believed to draw fairies or repel them. But this theory falters when you consider the children's humanity, their hunger, their tears, their mortality. They weren't ethereal sprites but flesh and blood beings, vulnerable and lost. A darker hypothesis wonders if they were victims of a human act, perhaps abandoned or escaped from a hidden community, their greenness a mark of abuse or ritual. This leads us to science, which seeks to strip the story of its magic and find a rational core. One theory points to chlorosis, a condition caused by iron deficiency, which can give skin a greenish tint. In the 12th century, poor diets were common, especially for children in isolated or famine-struck areas. The children might have been malnourished, their skin tinged green by illness, their odd behavior a result of hunger and fear. The sunless land could be a poetic description of a cave or a remote village, perhaps one cut off from trade or sunlight by dense forest. The beans, rich in nutrients, might have been the only food their weakened bodies could tolerate. This theory is tidy, but it stumbles on the details. Chlorosis is subtle, not a vivid green, and it doesn't explain the children's language, clothes, or detailed story. Another scientific angle suggests arsenic poisoning, which can cause greenish skin and was a risk in medieval mining areas. Suffolk had no major mines, but the children could have come from elsewhere, perhaps fleeing a toxic environment. Yet, arsenic would likely kill or sicken them faster than the boy's gradual decline, and the girl's full recovery is hard to square with such poisoning. A third theory proposes they were foreigners, perhaps from a distant region like Flanders, where weaving produced fine, unfamiliar fabrics. Their language might have been a dialect, and their greenness an exaggeration by awestruck villagers. But Woolpit was near trade routes, and foreigners weren't that rare. Surely someone would recognize their tongue. The sunless land and wolf pit don't fit this neatly, either. Science also considers psychology. In a superstitious age, villagers might have embroidered a mundane event, a pair of lost, sickly children, into a grand myth. The green skin could be a trick of memory, like how stories grow in the retelling. But the chronicler's sober accounts, written years later, suggest more than idle gossip. The story's specificity, the beans, the pit, the bells, resists this dismissal. The cultural context adds depth. In the 12th century, England was turbulent, with civil war and religious zeal shaping daily life. The church saw signs of God or the devil everywhere, and the green children might have been cast as a divine test or a warning. Saint Martin, linked to their homeland, was a patron saint of travelers, perhaps a clue to their wandering. The wolf pit, a practical trap, carried symbolic weight as a gateway to the unknown, like the underworld in myth. The children's story feels like a collision of folklore and reality, a moment when the ordinary met the impossible. Their legacy endures in Woolpit, where signs and festivals celebrate the tale, and in books that ponder its meaning. The green children challenge us to balance wonder and reason. Science offers plausible causes: illness, exile, or myth-making, but none capture the story's full strangeness. The dimensional hypothesis, while bold, honors the tale's magic, suggesting a world where the impossible is real. Perhaps the truth lies in the middle. Two children, lost and strange, became a canvas for humanity's longing to find meaning in the unknown. Their greenness, whether real or dreamed, is a reminder that some mysteries bloom forever, untouched by answers, like flowers in a sunless land. The mystery of Bella in the Witch Elm, a shadow cast in secrets. Where the green children of Woolpit wove a tale of ethereal wonder, the mystery of Bella in the Witch Elm drapes England's wartime years in a darker, more sinister veil, a story that chills the soul with its unanswered questions. In the spring of 1943, in the quiet woodlands of Hagley, Worcestershire, four boys searching for birds' nests stumbled upon a grim discovery inside a hollow wych elm tree. A human skull, its empty sockets staring from the shadows, nestled within the gnarled wood. The find, reported to the police, unraveled into one of Britain's most enduring enigmas. The skeleton, belonging to a woman, was wedged inside the tree, her bones tangled with remnants of clothing, a shoe, and a gold ring, suggesting she was placed there deliberately, perhaps while still alive. Dubbed Bella after cryptic graffiti that appeared years later, scrawled across walls and monuments asking, "Who put Bella in the Wych Elm?" This case blends the macabre with the mystical, stirring whispers of occult rituals, wartime intrigue, and supernatural vengeance. The woman's identity, her killer, and the reason for her ghastly entombment remain elusive, haunting investigators and storytellers alike. This tale, set against the backdrop of World War II's chaos, is a tapestry of fear, suspicion, and the unexplainable, where every clue seems to lead deeper into shadow. Let us wander through this labyrinth of mystery, tracing its eerie contours, pondering its spectral possibilities, and weighing the frail threads of science against the weight of the unknown, all while cradling the sorrow of a woman lost to time. The discovery in Hagley Wood was no ordinary crime scene. The Wych Elm, an ancient, twisted tree, stood in a secluded copse, its hollow trunk a natural crypt, barely wide enough for a body. The boys, trespassing on private land, first saw hair and teeth protruding from the bark, then the skull, its jaw still holding a scrap of cloth, as if silenced mid-scream. Police extracted the skeleton, finding a woman likely in her 30s, about 5 feet tall, with signs she'd given birth. A hand was missing, later found buried nearby, hinting at ritualistic dismemberment. Forensic analysis, limited by 1940s technology, suggested she'd been dead for at least 18 months, placing her death around late 1941. The tree's narrow opening implied she was forced inside, possibly suffocated or left to die in the cramped darkness, a fate so cruel it beggars belief. The war, with its blackouts and rationing, cast a grim pall over the investigation. Worcestershire, though rural, was near Birmingham, a target for German bombs, and people were distracted, scared, or displaced. Identifying an unknown woman in such times was like finding a needle in a burning haystack. Early theories pointed to a local crime, perhaps a lover's quarrel or a robbery gone wrong, but the tree's role was baffling. Why not bury the body or hide it in the woods? The elm, sacred in folklore as a guardian of spirits, seemed chosen for a reason, whispering of something older, darker. By 1944, the case grew cold, but the mystery reignited in the 1950s when graffiti began appearing. Who put Bella in the Wych Elm? Written in chalk or paint on walls, bridges, and even an obelisk near the crime scene. The handwriting, always similar, suggested a single author, someone who knew or claimed to know the victim's name. Bella, the name, soft and human, gave the skeleton a ghostly presence, as if she were pleading for justice from beyond. The graffiti's persistence, lasting into the 1970s, turned the case into a cultural haunting, a riddle etched into England's psyche. The supernatural allure of the story lies in its Gothic elements. A woman trapped in a tree, a sacred elm, and cryptic messages from an unseen hand. In wartime England, occult beliefs flourished, with some dabbling in black magic to curse the Nazis or seek forbidden knowledge. The missing hand, the tree's folklore, and the graffiti-fueled speculation of a ritual sacrifice. Which elms, in Celtic tradition, were linked to the underworld, places where spirits lingered or fairies danced. Could Bella have been a victim of a coven, her body offered to appease dark forces? The hand's burial, a practice tied to witchcraft, might have been meant to bind her spirit or curse her killer. The graffiti, appearing years later, feels like a spectral echo, as if Bella herself were writing from the grave, demanding her story be told. This supernatural thread weaves through the era's fears, when war's horrors made the impossible seem plausible. Yet, the human angle is equally compelling. Who was Bella, and why did no one claim her? The war uprooted millions of refugees, soldiers, and spies moved through Britain, leaving gaps in records. She might have been a transient, a barmaid, or a runaway, her life erased by the chaos. The ring and childbirth suggested a past, a family, yet no missing persons report matched her description. The tree's seclusion implies local knowledge. Someone familiar with Hagley would chose it, perhaps to hide their sin or to make a statement. The graffiti's author, possibly a witness or the killer, adds a taunting layer. Were they confessing, mocking, or grieving? The question who put Bella in the witch elm is less about her name and more about why her death was so brutally staged. Let us spin a personal hypothesis, one that dances between the earthly and the ethereal, honoring the story's mournful strangeness. Suppose Bella was caught in a web of wartime occultists, a secret group blending espionage and black magic. In 1941, Britain teetered on the edge, and some turned to rituals for power or protection. Bella, perhaps a willing initiate or an unwitting pawn, might have been chosen for a sacrifice, her body placed in the elm as a conduit to the spirit world. The missing hand, buried separately, could seal the ritual, trapping her soul to serve the group's aims. The graffiti, years later, might come from a remorseful member, haunted by their deed, or even Bella's spirit, stirring unease through an unknown scribe. This theory, though bold, captures the case's eerie theatricality. The tree, the hand, the messages all feel staged, like a play with no audience. Alternatively, Bella could have crossed a dangerous figure, perhaps a spy or traitor hiding in plain sight. Her death, masked as a ritual, might conceal a colder motive, silencing a witness. The elm, a local landmark, could be a twisted boast, the killer flaunting their untouchability. The graffiti, then, might be a rival's jab or a survivor's cry for truth. This hypothesis leans on the human capacity for cruelty, amplified by war's lawlessness, yet it keeps the supernatural shimmer, as the elm's folklore and the graffiti's persistence defy mundane answers. Science, ever the skeptic, steps in to douse the mystery with reason, though its light flickers in Bella's shadow. Forensic evidence, re-examined in later decades, confirms suffocation as the likely cause of death, with cloth in her mouth suggesting she was gagged. The tree's tight fit implied she was alive or recently dead when placed inside, a detail that chills the blood. Pathologists estimated her age and height but found no clear signs of disease or injury beyond the missing hand, which could have been severed by animals or intent. The war's disruption hampered identification. Dental records were spotty, and DNA testing was decades away. One scientific theory points to a domestic crime, Bella as a victim of a jealous partner or petty grudge, her body hidden in the tree to delay discovery. The elm's hollow was a practical, if gruesome, choice, and the hand's burial might be a red herring, scattered by foxes. The graffiti could be a local prank, inspired by the case's notoriety, or a guilt-ridden acquaintance dropping a clue. This explanation, while plausible, feels flat against the case's strangeness. Why choose a tree so hard to access? Why no reports of a missing woman matching her profile? Another theory ties Bella to espionage. In 1943, Birmingham was a hub for war industries, and spies, German or double agents, operated nearby. A 1950s lead suggested Bella was a German cabaret singer, Clara Bowerly, linked to a British trader, but records showed Clara died elsewhere. Another tip named a Dutch woman, possibly a spy, killed to protect secrets, but no evidence materialized. The spy angle explains the lack of records. Agents often used false identities, but it doesn't account for the tree or the graffiti's personal tone. A third scientific lens considers psychology. Wartime stress and the case's publicity might have spurred the graffiti as a collective obsession, like urban legends that grow legs. The name Bella could be a fiction, coined by the graffitist to humanize a forgotten victim, turning a cold case into a ghost story. Yet, the graffiti's consistency, same handwriting, same phrase, suggests a single, driven mind, not a crowd. Science tries to link Bella's case to occult ideas, saying wartime boosted pagan rituals, and the elm's spooky legends might have led someone to fake a sacrifice. The buried hand matches old traditions, but there's no proof of a cult nearby. Lost clues and fuzzy memories make it tough to solve. Bella's story sticks around in Worcestershire, inspiring books, podcasts, and songs. The graffiti, now gone, still asks who she was. Science thinks she was suffocated, but can't explain everything. Supernatural tales suggest a mix of human evil and myth, keeping Bella's mystery unsolved. The Dyatlov Pass incident, a ghostly riddle in the snow. In the frozen heart of Russia's Ural Mountains, where the wind howls like a restless spirit and the snow buries secrets deeper than graves, the Dyatlov Pass incident of 1959 stands as a chilling testament to the unknown. A tale so eerie it seems to claw at the edges of reality itself. 9 young hikers, brimming with life and adventure, set out to conquer the slopes of Kolitsaya, aptly named Dead Mountain by the local Mansi people, only to meet a fate so gruesome and inexplicable that it haunts us still, whispering of forces beyond the veil of the living. Led by Igor Dyatlov, a skilled 23-year-old engineering student, the group was no band of novices. They were fit, experienced, and prepared for the harsh Siberian winter, their spirits high as they trekked toward Otorten Mountain in late January. Yet, by early February, all 9 were dead, their bodies scattered across the snow in a tableau of horror. Some with shattered skulls, others half-naked in sub-zero cold, one missing her tongue, and their tents slashed open from the inside, as if they fled in blind terror from something unspeakable. The Soviet investigation, hampered by secrecy and fear, found no clear Kazeno footprints of intruders, no signs of a struggle, only a faint trace of radiation on their clothes and a mystery that grew darker with every clue. The Dyatlov Pass incident is a ghost story carved in ice, a puzzle where the pieces don't fit, stirring tales of vengeful spirits, alien encounters, and otherworldly rifts that make your skin crawl. Let's tread carefully through this frozen nightmare, peeling back its layers of dread, from the hiker's doomed journey to the spectral theories that cling to it like frost, while sifting through science's feeble attempts to banish the shadows, all in a quest to grasp why this tragedy feels like a scream from another world. The story begins with the group's departure on January 25, 1959, from Sverdlovsk, now Ekaterinburg, a city hardened by Russia's industrial grit. Igor Dyatlov and his 8 companions, 7 men and 2 women, mostly students in their early 20s, were bound for a challenging but achievable ski trek, aiming to earn a prestigious hiking certification. Their diaries, later recovered, brim with youthful joy, Songs by campfires, jokes about cold toes, and photos of snow-dusted faces grinning under fur hats. These were kids who loved the wild, who saw the Urals' jagged peaks as a playground, not a graveyard. They reached the edge of the wilderness by train and truck, waving goodbye to civilization, unaware that Dead Mountain was watching. By January 31st, they were climbing toward Kolit, pitching their tent on a gentle slope, a spot chosen to avoid avalanches, with a clear view of the stars. The last entry in their diary, dated February 1st, is mundane. A note about setting up camp. Then silence. When they failed to return by mid-February, a search party was dispatched, trudging through blizzards to find them. On February 26th, rescuers spotted the tent, half buried in snow, its canvas ripped open from the inside, as if the hikers had clawed their way out in panic. Their boots, coats, and gear were left behind, suggesting they fled barefoot or in socks into a night where temperatures plunged to -30 degrees Fahrenheit. The first bodies, those of Yuri Krivonischenko and Yuri Doroshenko, were found a mile away, near a cedar tree, stripped to their underwear, their hands burned as if they'd clutched fire to stay warm. Nearby, Igor Dyatlov and Zinaida Kolmogorova lay face down in the snow, as if crawling back to the tent, their faces etched with desperation. Rustam Slobodin, found between them, had a cracked skull but no external wounds, a detail that gnaws at logic. Weeks later, in a ravine 250 feet away, the final four Ludmila Dubinina, Semyon Zolotaryov, Alexander Kolevatov, and Nikolai Thibeaux-Brignol were uncovered under 12 feet of snow, their injuries defying reason. Dubinina was missing her tongue and eyes, her mouth a gaping void. Thibeaux-Brignol's skull was shattered. Zolotaryov had crushed ribs, yet no bruises or cuts marked their skin, as if crushed by an invisible force. The scene was a frozen charnel house, each body a question mark, each clue a descent into dread. The tent's interior slashes, made with a knife from within, scream of terror. What could drive 9 seasoned hikers to abandon safety for certain death? The absence of other footprints ruled out an attack by humans or animals, and the snow around the bodies was undisturbed, as if they'd been dropped from the sky. The radiation, detected on some clothing, was low but baffling, hinting at something unnatural. The Mansi, indigenous to the region, spoke of spirits haunting the mountain, of lights in the sky, and a legend of 9 hunters killed long ago, a number that echoed the hikers' fate with ghostly precision. This is where the supernatural creeps in, wrapping the incident in a shroud of the uncanny. The Urals, vast and desolate, feel like a place where the veil between worlds thins, where the dead might whisper to the living. The missing tongue, the eyeless sockets, the internal injuries without marks, these aren't just deaths. They're a message, a warning scrawled in blood and snow. Let's weave a personal hypothesis, one that leans into the spectral and the otherworldly, letting the incident's horror breathe. Imagine the hikers stumbled into a sacred, forbidden place, a rift where the spirit world bleeds into ours. The Mansi called Kolit Dead Mountain. For a reason, perhaps it's a shrine to ancient spirits, vengeful deities who guard their domain with wrath. That night, as the hikers slept, something stirred. A presence, not of flesh but of malice, its voice a low hum that drove them mad with fear. They slashed their tent, fleeing not from a physical threat but from a psychic assault, a terror that burned their minds. The burns on their hands, the half-naked flight, suggest a trance-like panic, as if possessed. In the ravine, the final 4 met the spirits' full force, their bodies crushed by an unseen hand, Dubinina's tongue and eyes taken as a ritual offering, a mark of the spirit's claim. The radiation, a residue of the rift, a glitch where our world and theirs collided. The lights seen by other hikers that night, reported in Soviet files, could be the spirit's manifestation or something stranger, like alien watchers drawn to the rift's energy. This theory, wild as it sounds, fits the incident's surreal horror. The hikers weren't killed by a bear or a storm, but by something that didn't belong here. Something that left no footprints because it didn't walk. Another supernatural angle points to extraterrestrial forces. The Urals were a Cold War hotspot, with secret military tests and UFO sightings whispered about in nearby villages. Suppose the hikers camped near a testing ground for alien technology, a beacon that drew a craft from beyond. The lights in the sky, the radiation, the internal injuries, could these be the work of beings experimenting on human bodies, their methods leaving no external trace? Dubonina's missing tongue might be a surgical extraction, a sample taken by cold, curious hands. The tense slashes and the hiker's flight suggest a blinding light or sound, a force that shattered their sanity. This idea, fueled by declassified reports of fire orbs in the Urals, paints the incident as a cosmic horror, where humans are ants under a magnifying glass. Yet, the spiritual thread feels stronger, rooted in the land's ancient lore. The Mansi spoke of a golden woman, a goddess who demanded respect, and of lights called Menk spirits, flickering over the peaks. The hikers, outsiders trampling sacred ground, might have angered these forces, their deaths a punishment for trespass. The number 9, matching the Mansi legend, feels like a ghostly signature, as if the mountain itself claimed them. The supernatural theories, whether spirits or aliens, thrive because the facts resist reason. The tense interior cuts, the lack of footprints, the bizarre injuries all point to something beyond human ken, something that makes you check the locks at night. Science, ever the torchbearer, steps into this darkness, but its light falters against the incident's icy wall. The leading scientific theory, refined in 2021, proposes a slab avalanche, a small but deadly snowslide that struck the tent, injuring some hikers and sparking panic. Frightened and disoriented, they fled, succumbing to hypothermia in the brutal cold. The burns came from a desperate fire, the internal injuries from the avalanche's pressure or falls in the ravine. Dubonina's tongue and eyes? Scavengers like foxes could have taken them post-mortem. The radiation, low and inconsistent, might be from natural thorium in the soil or contamination from nearby Soviet tests. This theory, backed by simulations in the journal Nature, explains the flight and some injuries but stumbles on key details. The slope was too gentle for a typical avalanche, and no debris or snow displacement was found. The tent, still upright, showed no signs of being hit. The internal injuries, ribs and skulls crushed without surface bruising, defy avalanche mechanics, which would leave external marks. Hypothermia doesn't explain why they didn't return for their coats, just a few feet away, or why Slobodin's skull fracture was so precise. The radiation, though minimal, remains a loose thread, as thorium isn't common in that area. Another scientific idea points to infrasound, low-frequency waves from mountain winds that can induce panic or hallucinations. This might explain the flight, but not the injuries or the tense slashes, which required deliberate effort. A military mishap, say? A secret weapons test could account for the lights and radiation, but no shrapnel or blast marks were found, and the injuries don't match explosions. The Yeti theory, sparked by a joking diary entry, falls apart. No large primate lives in the Urals, and no tracks supported it. Each scientific answer feels like a half-told story, unable to capture the incident's full terror. The Dyatlov Pass incident still spooks people in Russia, inspiring books, films, and tributes. The hikers' happy photos make their awful deaths even sadder. The Soviet government hid details for years, leading to crazy ideas like KGB cover-ups or alien attacks. The local Mansi people, though not involved, talk quietly about mountain spirits. The weird injuries like a missing tongue and broken bones seem like a creepy ritual. Strange lights and the number 9 feel like clues to something huge. Science blames an avalanche, but it doesn't explain the eerie vibe. Stories of ghosts or aliens make it seem like the hikers ran into an ancient, deadly power. The Tunguska event, a cosmic enigma shrouded in dread. Deep in the heart of Siberia, where the taiga stretches like an endless sea of pine and the air hums with secrets older than time, the Tunguska event of 1908 erupted with a force that shook the earth and left a scar that still whispers of the unearthly. A mystery so vast and terrifying it feels like the universe itself screamed in the wilderness. On the morning of June 30th, 1908, near the Podkamenia Tunguska River, a blinding flash tore through the sky, followed by a blast so powerful it flattened 2,000 square kilometers of forest. 80 million trees snapped like matchsticks, unleashing energy 1,000 times greater than the Hiroshima bomb. Witnesses, mostly nomadic Evenki herders and Russian settlers miles away, spoke of a fiery pillar splitting the heavens, a roar like the end of the world, and a heat so fierce it scorched their skin from 40 miles distant. Yet, when the dust settled, there was no crater, no debris, just a wasteland of shattered trees radiating from a central point, as if some invisible hand had struck the earth and vanished. No one died, a miracle in the remote taiga, but the event left a wound in human understanding, a riddle that pulses with the eerie, the ghostly, and the spiritual, as if the cosmos reached down to remind us how small we are. The Tunguska event is no mere explosion. It's a specter that haunts science, a tale of fire and shadow that begs questions of alien visitors, vengeful spirits, or rifts in reality itself. Each possibility more unsettling than the last. Let's walk this desolate ground, tracing the event's chilling details, weaving through its supernatural allure, and probing science's faltering attempts to tame a mystery that feels like a warning from beyond the stars, all while clutching the dread that some truths are too vast to hold. The morning began like any other in Siberia's wilds, with herders tending reindeer and settlers chopping wood under a pale summer sky. At 7:14 a.m., the world changed. A brilliant light, brighter than the sun, blazed over the taiga, moving fast, trailing fire. Witnesses, some as far as 400 miles away, described a second sun or a fiery column that split the sky before a deafening boom shook the ground, knocking people off their feet and shattering windows in distant villages. The heat was unbearable. One man, 40 miles from the epicenter, said his shirt nearly caught fire, while another saw his barn's roof twist like paper. The blast shockwaves circled the globe twice, recorded by barometers in London, and seismic stations from Germany to Japan registered an earthquake. In the days that followed, strange phenomena rippled outward. Glowing skies over Europe, so bright you could read newspapers at midnight, and eerie noctilucent clouds, shimmering like ghostly veils. Yet, in Tunguska's heart, the scene was apocalyptic. Trees lay flattened in a butterfly-shaped pattern, their trunks pointing away from the blast's center. But at ground zero, a patch of trees stood upright, stripped bare, like silent sentinels guarding a secret. The absence of a crater was the first ghost in the Sterino meteorite fragments. No molten rock, just devastation without a source. The Evenki, whose reindeer fled in panic, spoke of a god's wrath, of Agdi, their thunder deity, hurling fire to punish the land. This spiritual dread, rooted in their ancient beliefs, set the tone for a mystery that feels alive, as if the taiga itself mourns. The event's isolation delayed serious investigation. Siberia's vastness, coupled with Russia's political turmoil, revolution, and war loomed meant the site remained untouched for years. In 1921, scientist Leonid Kulik, driven by tales of a great fireball, led the first expedition, expecting to find a massive meteorite. Instead, he found a wasteland frozen in time. Trees like broken bones, bogs swallowing evidence, and no trace of cosmic debris. Kulik's team, trudging through mosquito-ridden swamps, felt the place's eerie weight. Locals refused to guide them, whispering of cursed ground. Over multiple expeditions in the 1920s and 1930s, Kulik found microscopic silicate and magnetite grains, possible meteorite dust, but nothing conclusive. The lack of a smoking gun turned Tunguska into a ghost story, its silence louder than the blast. The event's scale 15 megatons of energy, dwarfing any human weapon of the time demanded answers, but its elusiveness fed the supernatural. Why no crater? Why no fragments? Why the glowing skies and standing trees? These questions, like specters, draw us into the heart of the unknown. The supernatural allure of Tunguska is impossible to shake, a blend of cosmic horror and spiritual unease that makes your heart race in the dark. The Evenki's tales of Agdi, a sky god wielding fire, paint the blast as divine retribution, perhaps for human hubris or trespass on sacred land. The taiga, vast and ancient, feels like a place where spirits linger, where the veil between worlds frays. The glowing skies, lasting weeks, evoke biblical omens, as if the heavens themselves wept. The standing trees at ground zero, unscathed amid ruin, are like totems, marking a spot where something unnatural touched down. This spiritual thread weaves through the event's strangeness, suggesting a force not of this earth, something that burned the sky and left no trace because it didn't belong here. Let's craft a personal hypothesis, one that dives deep into the ghostly and the otherworldly, letting Tunguska's terror breathe. Suppose the event was a tear in reality, a momentary rift where another dimension collided with ours. Imagine a parallel world, its physics alien to ours, leaking energy into Siberia's sky. The fireball wasn't a meteor but a surge of interdimensional force, its light and heat a byproduct of two realities scraping together. The blast, with no crater or debris, was pure energy, flattening trees but leaving the central ones standing, as if the rift's core repelled matter. The glowing skies, a residue of this otherworldly breach, like static from a cosmic radio. The Evenki stories of Agdi might preserve an ancient memory of such rifts, their god a symbol of forces beyond comprehension. The silicate grains Kulik found could be fragments of this other dimension, too alien to recognize. This theory, though fantastical, explains the event's impossibilities. No crater because there was no impact, no fragments because the object wasn't physical, just a burst of alien energy. The standing trees, the glowing clouds, the global shockwave theory signatures of a cosmic glitch, a moment when the universe blinked. Alternatively, the supernatural leans toward extraterrestrial horror. In 1908, humanity was barely grasping flight, yet the skies were already alive with UFO tales. Suppose Tunguska was a spacecraft, not crashing but detonating deliberately, perhaps a failed experiment by beings watching Earth. The fireball's path, described as zigzagging by some witnesses, suggests controlled movement. The blast's Precisionano crater, no debris hints at technology beyond our grasp, vaporizing itself to leave no trace. The radiation-like effects later detected in tree rings, and the glowing skies could be fallout from an alien energy source, a reactor or weapon gone haywire. The Evenki's fear of cursed ground might stem from an instinctive sense of this alien presence, their spirits' warning of intruders from the stars. This idea, chilling in its implications, paints Tunguska as a close encounter gone wrong, a reminder that we're not alone and not in control. The spiritual angle, though, feels more primal, rooted in the land's pulse. The taiga, untouched by cities, is a place where the earth speaks, its spirits fierce and unforgiving. The blast might have been a warning, a cosmic or divine signal to respect the sacred. The number of trees felled 80 million feels ritualistic, a sacrifice to appease or awaken something vast. The glowing skies, like auroras of the damned, suggest a spiritual awakening, as if the blast stirred the Earth's soul. These supernatural threads, whether dimensional, alien, or divine, thrive because science stumbles in Tunguska's shadow. Science, with its microscopes and equations, has wrestled with the event for a century, but its answers feel like half-truths against the taiga's silence. The leading theory, proposed in the 1930s and refined since, is an airburst meteor or comet, exploding 510 miles above the ground. A rocky meteorite or icy comet, vaporizing on entry, could release megatons of energy without leaving a crater, its fragments too small to find. The flattened trees match airburst patterns like the 2013 Chelyabinsk meteor, and the standing trees at ground zero align with the low-pressure zone under such blasts. The glowing skies, dust and ice particles from the comet, scattering sunlight. The silicate grains Kulik found support this, hinting at cosmic material. This theory, backed by simulations, is science's best bet, but it cracks under scrutiny. No large fragments were ever found, despite decades of searches, and the blast's energy 10-15 megatons demands a massive object. Yet no telescope recorded its approach. Comets, being icy, should leave water vapor or organic traces, but none were definitive. The zigzagging fireball and the absence of a visible trail in 1908's clear sky don't fit a typical meteor. Another scientific idea, less popular, suggests a natural gas explosion, methane from the bogs igniting in a freak event. This explains the fire and blast, but not the global shockwave or glowing skies, and methane blasts leave chemical markers absent here. A geophysical theory posits a volcanic microeruption or tectonic pulse, but Tunguska's geology shows no such activity. The radiation in tree rings, detected decades later, is another meteors don't emit radiation, and natural sources like radon are too weak to explain it. Science's meteor theory, while neat, feels like a bandage on a wound that won't close. The event's global reach seismic waves, glowing skies demands a cause both massive and elusive, yet the taiga hides its heart. The Tunguska event lingers like a ghost in Russia, a legend taught in schools, debated in bars, and woven into novels. The Evenki avoid the site, whispering of spirits. Globally, it sparks UFO tales and asteroid fears, inspiring defense programs. In the 1960s, scientists like John Baxter suggested alien ships, but tests for nuclear fallout found nothing. Happening before space travel or atomic bombs, it feels raw. The silent taiga, standing trees, and glowing skies hint at cosmic intent. Science says meteor, but supernatural ideas aliens. Gods, rifts capture its dread. Warning, we're not alone. The Hessdalen lights, a dance of ghostly orbs. In the quiet folds of Norway's Hessdalen Valley, where rugged hills cradle a patchwork of farms and forests under a sky that seems to hold its breath, a strange phenomenon has flickered for decades, casting an eerie glow that feels like a secret whispered by the stars themselves. The Hessdalen lights, glowing orbs that drift, dance, and vanish in the night, have haunted this remote corner since the early 1980s, turning a sleepy valley into a stage for the supernatural, where the line between Earth and elsewhere blurs in a spectral waltz. These lights, sometimes small as fireflies, sometimes large as cars, shifting from white to red to blue, move with a purpose that defies reason, hovering over hills, darting across fields, or fading into the dark like ghosts slipping through a veil. Unlike fleeting fireballs or distant stars, they linger, sometimes for hours, and seem to notice those who watch, stirring whispers of spirits, alien probes, or portals to other worlds. Since their first sightings, reported by farmers and passers-by, the lights have drawn scientists, thrill seekers, and dreamers, each chasing answers to a riddle that feels alive, as if the valley itself is speaking in tongues of fire. Let us wander through this haunted landscape, painting its beauty before, during, and after the lights appear, capturing the awe and fear of those who saw them, sifting through rumors and wild tales, spinning a ghostly hypothesis, and probing science's fragile theories, all while holding close the chill of a mystery that dances just beyond our grasp. Before the lights began, Hessdalen was a place of timeless calm, a valley 120 kilometers south of Trondheim, carved by glaciers into a long, narrow basin flanked by steep hills. In the late 1970s, its 150 residents lived simply farmers tending sheep, loggers felling pine, families gathered around with stoves and homes dwarfed by snow-draped peaks. The sky, vast and clear, was a canvas of northern lights in winter, their green and purple ribbons of familiar magic. The valley's quiet was broken only by wind, the bleat of livestock, or the crunch of boots on frost. No one expected the heavens to send something stranger. In 1981, the lights arrived, though some say they flickered earlier, unnoticed. Farmers first spotted them glowing balls, silent as breath, floating over the hills or skimming the river. One night, a man driving home froze as a white orb, the size of a basketball, hovered beside his car, pacing him before vanishing into the trees. Another saw a red light split into three, each piece darting away like a startled bird. During these sightings, the valley transformed into a dreamscape. The hills, bathed in moonlight, seemed to pulse with hidden life, their shadows deeper, their silence heavier. The lights moved with no sound, no heat, sometimes steady, sometimes erratic, as if playing a game with the watchers below. A blue orb might hover for an hour, then streak upward, gone in a blink. Witnesses described a tingling unease, a sense of being watched, as if the lights knew they were there. After a sighting, the valley returned to its quiet, but the air felt charged, the hills less friendly. Dawn revealed no scorched earth, no footprints, just the same fields and forests, now touched by something unknowable. The residents' reactions were a mix of wonder and dread. Arnwist, a local farmer, saw a white light hover over his barn in 1982, steady as a lantern, then shoot into the sky. He swore it felt alive, like an eye staring back. Families gathered on porches, pointing at orbs that danced in pairs, their whispers turning to prayers. Some felt awe, as if blessed by a celestial visit. Others locked their doors, fearing spirits or worse. By 1984, sightings peaked dozens a week, drawing outsiders. Journalists, UFO hunters, and scientists with cameras and spectrometers, devices that measure light's properties. The valley buzzed with talk. In cafes, old men swapped stories of Norse spirits, like the Vaetir, guardian beings tied to the land, angered by human greed. Others spoke of trolls, their lights luring the unwary to doom. Younger folk leaned toward UFOs, fueled by Cold War tales of flying saucers. A persistent rumor claimed the lights followed people, pacing cars or lingering near homes, as if curious or hunting. One woman said a green orb entered her bedroom, hovering before fading through the wall, leaving her trembling for days. These tales, passed in hushed tones, painted the lights as more than phenomena. They were presences, ghostly and knowing, weaving a mythology that made the valley feel haunted. The lights' behavior fed this dread. They appeared most in winter, when the valley was darkest, and seemed to respond to human actions, dimming when photographed or approaching when called. This sent chills through witnesses, who felt watched by something beyond the stars. The supernatural allure of the Hessdalen lights lies in their elusiveness, their silent dance a riddle that feels spiritual. as if the valley is a sacred stage where the unseen performs. The light's colors white, red, blue evoke ghostly flames. Their movements a ritual too complex for human eyes. The Norse saw lights as omens, souls of the dead or gods passing through. In Hestdalen, this lore feels alive, the orbs like spirits trapped between worlds. The valley's isolation, its ancient hills, amplifies this, making each sighting a brush with the divine or the damned. Let's spin a personal hypothesis, one that dives into the ghostly and otherworldly, letting the light's eeriness glow. Suppose the Hestdalen lights are manifestations of earthbound spirits, souls tied to the valley's ancient stones, stirred by some forgotten rite. The hills, rich with quartz and minerals, might act as a conduit, their piezoelectric properties, electricity generated by pressure on crystals, amplifying spiritual energy. The lights are these spirits' voices, flickering to warn or beckon, their colors reflecting their mood: white for peace, red for anger, blue for sorrow. Their responsiveness, pacing cars or hovering near homes, suggests awareness, as if they study the living. The valley, a cradle of Norse myths, could be a thin place, where the veil between life and death frays, letting these souls slip through. The peak sightings in the 1980s might mark a disturbance, perhaps mining or human encroachment angered the Vaetir, their lights a protest. The orb's ability to split or merge hints at a collective spirit, a hive of souls bound to the land. This theory, though wild, captures the light's haunting grace, their dance a lament for a world we've forgotten. Alternatively, an extraterrestrial angle chills the bone. The lights could be probes, sent by an alien intelligence to map Earth's forgotten corners. Their erratic paths, silent flight, and responsiveness suggest advanced technology, not random energy. The valley's minerals might draw them, a beacon for their sensors. The UFO rumor, strong in the 1980s, ties to global sightings, with Hestdalen as a testing ground. The orb in the bedroom, passing through walls, feels like a scan, not a ghost. Its green glow an alien signature. This idea paints the lights as scouts, watching us with cold, distant eyes, their purpose hidden in the stars. Yet, the spiritual hypothesis resonates deeper, rooted in the valley's pulse. The light's winter peak, when the land is still, feels like a vigil, as if the dead rise when the living sleep. Their silence, their dance, is a language we've lost, a call to remember the sacred. The supernatural thrives because the lights defy logic. No fuel, no source, just endless motion, like souls that won't rest. Science, with its tools and theories, has chased the lights since 1984, when Project Hestdalen, led by Norwegian scientists, set up cameras and sensors. They've logged thousands of sightings, capturing orbs on film, their light spectra, patterns of wavelengths, unlike any known source. One theory suggests atmospheric plasma, pockets of ionized gas, electrically charged particles, formed by the valley's unique conditions. The hill's quartz and copper under pressure might generate electric fields, sparking these plasmas. This explains the light's glow and movement like miniature auroras, but not their responsiveness or long-duration. Plasmas fade fast, yet Hestdalen orbs linger for hours. Another idea points to ball lightning, rare spheres of electrical energy seen during storms. Ball lightning moves oddly and glows, but it's tied to weather, while Hestdalen lights appear in clear skies. A third theory involves combustion of gases, like methane from bogs, ignited by static. This accounts for the glow but not the orb's complex paths or splitting behavior. Scientists have measured electromagnetic spikes during sightings, suggesting a link to the valley's geology. But no model explains why the lights seem to watch back. In the 2000s, the Italian SETI team searched for alien signals in Hestdalen but found no radio waves. Scientific theories like plasma, ball lightning, or gas don't fully explain the light's strange dance or watchful presence. Hessdalen, once a quiet valley, now draws visitors with a UFO observatory and festivals. Locals like Erlingstrand revere the lights, though some elders fear them, crossing themselves at dusk. Global buzz on X and in documentaries fuels tales of UFOs, ghosts, or healing powers. The lights, glowing into the 2020s, hint at spirits or portals, leaving us awed by their mystery. The Hoya Baciu Forest, a haunted realm of shadows. While the Hessdalen lights flicker like ghostly lanterns in Norway's quiet valley, casting their eerie glow over hills and hearts, another place, far to the east in Romania, harbors a darker, more tangled mystery, the Hoya Baciu Forest, a realm where the very trees seem to whisper of spirits and the air hums with a dread that clings like mist. Known as the Bermuda Triangle of Romania, this forest near Cluj-Napoca has been a stage for the uncanny since at least the mid-20th century. Its gnarled branches and twisted trunks hiding tales of vanishing people, ghostly voices, and lights that dance without source, as if the forest itself is alive, watching, waiting. Visitors report nausea, burns, or lost hours, emerging with stories of shadows that move against the wind or faces glimpsed in the leaves, while photographs capture orbs and shapes that defy explanation. The Hoya Baciu is no ordinary woodland. It's a labyrinth of the supernatural, where the line between our world and the next phrase, leaving those who enter changed, haunted by a place that feels like a wound in reality. Let us step softly into this shadowed grove, sketching its eerie beauty before, during, and after its strangest moments, capturing the fear and wonder of those who saw its secrets, sifting through whispers and wild rumors, spinning a ghostly hypothesis, and probing science's thin answers, all while holding the chill of a forest that seems to breathe with a life of its own. Before the tales of terror began, the Hoya Baciu was a quiet forest on the outskirts of Cluj-Napoca, a bustling city in Transylvania, Romania's heartland. In the early 20th century, it was a place of simple beauty. Dense stands of oak, beech, and pine stretching over rolling hills, their leaves whispering in the breeze, their roots drinking from streams that sparkled under a wide, blue sky. Locals picnicked here, children played among the trees, and shepherds grazed their flocks in nearby meadows, the forest's edge a familiar neighbor. The air was clean, scented with earth and resin, and the only sounds were birdsong and the rustle of leaves. Yet, even then, old-timers spoke of the forest's queer spots clearings where compasses spun or trees grew in odd spirals, as if shaped by unseen hands. By the 1960s, these whispers grew louder, sparked by a story that became the forest's dark heart. A young girl, 5 years old, vanished into the trees, only to reappear 5 years later, unharmed, her clothes unchanged, with no memory of where she'd been. This tale, passed down in Cluj's cafés, marked the Hoya Baciu as a place apart, its calm facade hiding a pulse of something ancient, something wrong. During the forest's strangest moments, reported from the 1960s onward, the landscape transforms into a theater of the unreal. Visitors describe a sudden hush, as if the birds and wind fall silent, replaced by a low hum that vibrates in the chest. The trees, some bent into unnatural arches or spirals, seem to lean closer, their shadows sharper, darker, than the light allows. Red lights flicker in the canopy, darting like fireflies but leaving no trace, while disembodied voices whispers, laughs, or cries echo from nowhere. A biologist, Alexandru Sift, who studied the forest in the 1960s, saw glowing orbs and felt unseen eyes, his photos showing misty shapes that chilled his colleagues. One famous incident in 1968 involved a military technician who photographed a disc-shaped object hovering over a clearing, its edges blurred, as if slipping between worlds. The image, later studied, baffled experts. Visitors often feel sick nausea, headaches, or burns on their skin while others lose time, emerging hours later with no memory. Their watch is stopped. During these events, the forest feels alive, its air thick with a presence that watches, judges, or lures. After such moments, the Hoya Bachu returns to its deceptive calm. The trees still, the streams clear, but the ground feels heavier, as if it holds secrets too deep to unearth. Grass in some clearings grows patchy, scorched without fire, and compasses still wobble, pointing to no true north. The forest's silence now carries a weight, like a held breath, and those who leave carry its marked nightmares, unease, or a pull to return. The reactions of witnesses are a tapestry of awe and terror. In the 1960s, SIF's reports, published locally, drew curious hikers, many of whom fled after hearing voices or seeing shadows that mimicked their steps. A shepherd, in 1970, swore a red light chased his dog into the trees, the animal never seen again. By the 1980s, as Romania's communist grip loosened, stories spread. A woman felt hands grab her in a clearing, leaving no marks. A man saw a face in the bark, its eyes following him. Locals, steeped in Transylvanian folklore, were unsurprised Cluj's elders spoke of strigoi, restless spirits of the dead, or ezer, forest beings who steal souls. In village pubs, talk turned to curses. The forest was a graveyard for unburied dead, they said, or a portal opened by ancient Dacian rituals, Romania's pre-Roman ancestors. Younger folk, influenced by global UFO fever, saw aliens, the 1968 photo proof of a ship scouting Earth. Rumors grew wilder. Some said the forest healed, curing ailments. Others claimed it cursed, leaving visitors with bad luck. By the 2000s, paranormal tourists flocked to Hoya Baciu, their ex-posts buzzing with tales of orbs, time slips, and ghostly figures, amplifying its fame as a haunted hotspot. The forest's responsiveness lights appearing when called, voices answering shouts deepened the dread, as if it listened, waiting to play its next move. The supernatural allure of Hoya Baciu is a siren's call, its twisted trees and flickering lights a hymn to the ghostly, the spiritual, the forbidden. Transylvania, land of Dracula, is no stranger to dark tales, but the forest feels older, its power raw, untamed. The spiraled trees, bending without wind, seem sculpted by spirits, their shapes a warning or an invitation. The voices, the lights, the lost time theory not random but deliberate, as if the forest is a living entity, its roots drinking from a well of the dead. Let us weave a personal hypothesis, one that sinks into the spectral, letting the forest's terror bloom. Suppose Hoya Baciu is a thin place, a rift where our world and the spirit realm touch, its trees antennas for the unseen. The Dacians, who revered sacred groves, might have sealed a pact here, binding their dead to the land to guard it. The girl's 5-year vanishing was a slip through this rift, time warped in the spirit world, her return a rare mercy. The lights are these spirits' eyes, watching intruders. The voices, their warnings or lures. The nausea and burns, a reaction to crossing the veil, the body rejecting the otherworld's touch. The 1968 UFO wasn't a ship but a manifestation of the rift's energy, mistaken for alien tech. The forest's responsiveness lights flaring at shouts suggests a collective will, a hive of souls bound by ancient magic. The spiraled trees, the scorched grass, are scars of this rift, where reality bends. This hypothesis, though bold, captures the forest's haunting pulse. Its events a dance of spirits guarding a secret we're too frail to know. Could Hoya Baciu be an alien lookout, with extraterrestrials studying us in its quiet depths? The 1968 photo of a blurry craft and the strange lights suggest advanced alien tech, maybe probes scanning the forest. Nausea and burns could come from their radiation, the voices a telepathic buzz. But the spiritual vibe feels stronger, tied to ancient Dacian myths and tales of Strigoi, restless spirits. The forest's lights and whispers seem like the dead crying out, not machines. Its eerie magic, with no wires or gadgets, pulses like a living mystery. Science tries to shine a light on Hoya Bachu's mysteries, but its explanations fall short. One idea suggests electromagnetic fields from quartz or iron in the hills, messing with compasses, causing nausea, or triggering hallucinations. The lights might be plasma-charged gas sparked by mineral friction, but tests in the 2000s found no steady source, and plasma doesn't linger or act aware like the lights. Another theory points to infrasound, low-frequency waves from wind or earth shifts, making people feel scared or hear voices. But infrasound is random, not tied to specific spots, and doesn't explain the lights or lost time. Some think fungi or bog gases like methane cause visions or burns, yet 2010 soil tests found no weird toxins, and gases don't form glowing orbs or UFO shapes. Romanian scientists explored a UFO angle, suggesting humid air bends light to create illusions. But the 1968 photo of a sharp-edged craft wasn't a mirage. Each theory feels sound, gas, or optics feels too weak to capture the forest's strange dance of lights and whispers, leaving its eerie magic untouched. Hoya Bachu's eerie fame grows in Romania, a legend shared in Cluj's classrooms, blogs, and movies. Locals step carefully, leaving salt or prayers to honor old traditions. Worldwide, it's a hotspot for ghost hunters, boosted by shows like Ghost Adventures and X-Posts showing glowing orbs. Named for a lost shepherd, it echoes the vanished girl's tale, tugging at the heart. Its strange lights and voices defy science's explanations, hinting at spirits, aliens, or hidden portals. The forest feels like a warning or a trap, its mysteries too deep to unravel, chilling us in its shadows. These 7 mysteries, from haunted forests to cosmic explosions, leave us standing at the edge of the unknown. Whether they hint at supernatural realms, alien presence, or natural quirks we can't yet grasp, their allure endures. Science offers clues, but the full truth remains elusive, inviting us to wonder. What lies beyond our world? As we ponder these enigmas, they remind us that some questions are as thrilling as their answers. If unexplained stories give you chills, don't forget to follow Ancient Relics Keeper, where time and mystery intertwine, and every ending is just the beginning of another unanswered question.